Hi, everybody. It's Jean Humbrecht with Humbrecht Law, criminal and traffic defense attorney in Manassas, Virginia. Welcome to my weekly local business spotlight. Today, I am joined by a good friend of mine, Joanne Bellata with Loan Depot. She is a mortgage loan officer. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Joanne to tell everybody whatever it is that you want to tell them about what you do, how you got to be at the company you're at, whatever it is that you want, and then we'll just have a conversation about mortgages and rates and whatever it is that people want to ask in the chat.
Sure, sounds good. So, again, my name is Joanne Bellata, and I am a mortgage loan officer. I work for a company called Loan Depot, and that is a company my whole branch just switched to recently. We were looking for a solid company that had products, a lot of products that we could use with all of our clients. Had a portfolio of programs that would be um, options for different types of clients, whether they're first-time home buyers or investors or looking for a rental property or vacation property. So a little bit about myself. I have been in the financial industry since 1995. I started as a bank teller and made my way through the ranks and did a little self-promoting. Before I became a mortgage loan officer, I was a housing counselor with Prince William County. I was responsible for the financial education and housing counseling program, and I recruited and trained volunteers to teach financial education classes and do housing counseling so that we could get people into the county's first-time homebuyers program. That led me to wanting to actually be a mortgage loan officer so that I could follow my clients through the whole process and help them to actually find those homes. So that's gotten me to where I am today.
So one thing that you mentioned that I definitely want to ask about the first time home buyer program. So can you tell everybody watching a little bit about that?
Sure. So we live in Prince William County, and Prince William County has a very aggressive first-time home buyers program. And what that does is it provides anywhere between 20 to 30% down payment assistance plus 3% towards closing costs. So it's effectively 23 to 33% of funds that go towards your home. Um, there are some eligibility standards that clients need to fall under, and that is an income standard that matches whatever HUD sets as the average median income for the area. You have to be 80% of that average median income. In this area, it's about $65,000 right now for a single person, and it goes up gradually based on the number of people in the household. Um, so it can be a significant amount of money that you can make if you've got 3 children and a spouse, and then still get the 20 to 30% down payment assistance. The requirements are that you take a 6-hour homebuyer education course, which is taught through Virginia Housing and the Virginia Cooperative Extension. Then you have to do a smart money management course, and you do have to sit for one-on-one counseling with the Virginia Cooperative Extension so that someone there can actually ensure that you're eligible for the program. Other standards are things like a credit score of 640. You can't have owned or been a property mortgage payer on a property in the last 3 years. You need to not be delinquent on any bills in the last 12 months, no bankruptcies in the last 3 years, or foreclosures or short sales. So there are some standards that go into this, but the end result is that you can get a house and get anywhere depending on the house. I think the last person that got into the program got up towards of $120,000 in what we call down payment assistance. Now, that is not a grant, it's an actual loan at 0% paid back when the house is sold, unless you stay in it for 30 years, and then you get to keep that. So it's a really great program. But again, the standards are they're not hard and they're not strict. It's just that there are a lot of standards. And the number of people that fall into that is minimal. But again, it's a really great program. And once you're in it, you are actually in a house. We've reduced your mortgage payment by that 20% or 30%, which makes that house more affordable for you.
I had no idea the program did that much actually. I'm going to ask a question about condos. Are condos looked at differently for this first-time homebuyer program?
Condos can be looked at differently for the first home buyers program. There is a difference between what we call a warrantable and a non-warrantable condo, and there are certain standards. So the best option is to get with a loan officer and see what properties are eligible for these types of programs.
Okay, okay. So the first-time homebuyer program, is this available for any type of loan that?
Yeah. It used to generally be an FHA type of loan, but right now they've made some changes to it. But it does max out. There's a maximum home price that you can get, and it is about 453,000 right now. I think is the max that you can get. It's on the county's website, but the yeah, that's the max that you can get for the loan. Did I lose you? No, I think either I froze or you froze. It might be me. Oh, did I
I
freeze or
don't
did
think
you freeze?
I didn't freeze. Can you hear me?
It must be my connection. I can hear you now.
Can you?
Oh, oh. I can. It just keeps freezing up a little bit. And that's probably my connection.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'll try asking the question that I just asked. A lot of people are wondering, what's going on with rates now, and is this a good time to buy? Should people wait? Do you have any advice for people, or any commentary on the the rate worry that's going around out there?
Yeah, so a good time to buy is all dependent on the person. It's dependent on where you are in your home buying process. Is this something where you have to buy because you're moving? Is it something where you want to buy because you need to upsize or downsize? Do you need to go to a different area? Do you need the equity in your house to do something else with that? So I preface good time to buy with my first interest rate on my first home was 8%. So we bought because we wanted a home. Our lease was up. We had to move, and it was the right time to buy for us. It wasn't the right time to buy for the rates, but it made sense for us to buy. And we bought with the expectation that we could refinance when the rates went down, and that's how we did it. And I tell people it wasn't easy. That first year of payments was very difficult for us, but we managed to do it. There are some things to look into if you're looking to buy a home. There are some upfront expenses, like you'll still have to pay for the home inspection and for the appraisal and some other items. It's good to have some money saved up, although we do have down payment assistance programs. Location, what's available, where you want to move to. Is there anything in your price range in that area? That's one of my buyers right now is having an issue with price range. She wants to live in Prince William County, but her price range is having her look in Stafford County. So it's all dependent on the buyer. And I tell people if you're interested, get an application and let us look at the numbers, and then we can decide together if this is the right time to buy or not.
Okay. And if it's not the right time to buy, what might be something that you suggest to a person?
If we decide it's not the right time, it usually has to do with we need to save up a little bit more money to put down on the house. The more money you put down, the lower your monthly payment's going to be. So that's one of the key pieces that people think is, oh, I can do a 0% down. You can, but then you're going to have a full monthly mortgage payment. If you put some money down, it reduces your monthly mortgage payment. It could be $10, it could be $100, depending on how much money you put down. The interest rates do determine your mortgage payment as well. So, we can say wait until the interest rates fall, but we just don't know when those are going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's your time to buy, it's your time to buy. And like I said, we bought because we had to. We figured out what we could afford, and we went with that number. And we had to change the home we were looking for,
Mm-hmm.
but that's how we did it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but we knew when we wanted to buy a year out. We saved up the money. We looked into some things, but you want to start getting some numbers together as soon as possible.
So, when would you suggest that somebody? Well, my first question is: should somebody talk to a loan officer first, somebody in the mortgage industry, or a realtor?
So, of course, I'm going to say go with the loan officer first. The loan officer, what we do is we can let you know, number one, if you're ready to buy. So that's looking at your credit score, looking at what you have for debt. The things that go into the mortgage payment that are most important are your credit score and your debt to income ratio. So, is there too much debt being carried? Because when we add in the housing payment, it can actually knock you out of eligibility standards for most mortgages. So and generally it caps out around 50%, although sometimes it's a little bit higher and sometimes a little bit lower. And what that means is you've got monthly credit card payments, you've got car payments. We add in a mortgage payment on top of that, and we divide that by your gross monthly income. And if that number is greater than 50%, getting a mortgage might be a little more difficult for you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that also determines how much of a mortgage you're going to get, what your monthly payment will be. So we add in an actual number, and then we take that number. So suppose it's 2,500. We take that number and we reverse engineer that into an actual home price. Why I say go with the mortgage lender first is because the realtor can give you some coaching and they can talk about what you want, what your desires are, and what your dreams are, but they can't take you to look at.
Oh, it looks like you froze, Joanne. Let's give it a second for Joanne to come back. Can you hear me? All right, guys, let's give it a few seconds. Joanne messaged me. She's trying to get unfrozen. Well, anyway, so there's not dead air until we hear from Joanne again. Just recapping what she just said, the best thing to do is talk to a loan officer before you talk to a realtor to see what kind of a house you can actually get and if you can afford it. So it looks like we lost Joanne. I am going to just keep talking for about another half a minute and then I'm going to get off the live here. And if Joanne comes back, we will be back. Otherwise, we will have her on another time. So basically, talking to a loan officer about your credit score, your debt, your monthly payments, and obviously your gross monthly income, and if you can afford the house, and then whether or not you should wait for the rates to go down or just go for it and then possibly refinance when the rates go down. Well, because I am not a mortgage loan officer, I am probably going to stop talking now because I can't give advice on that. Oh, Joanne's back. Thank God. All right. Are you
Sorry.
there? Because I was about to.
Yeah. Sorry, my iPad overheated.
Okay. Can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes. So I was just recapping what you had just said, and it sounded like you were about to say a realtor can't do something.
So, realtors can get information from you, but in order for them to show you homes, they need to know what your price range is. and then what areas you want to look at. And they're going to find you homes in the areas in that price range that you have. And in order to make an offer on a home, you need an offer letter from a loan officer. So we have to pre-approve you, send you the offer letter. And that's the only way you can do it. So I always say it's best to go with the loan officer first. You can figure out what your price range is, and then talk to the realtor. However, it doesn't hurt to do both at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Now, you talked about refinancing. How long should somebody wait after they purchase their home to look into refinancing? Does it matter?
Yes and no. When you refinance, you still have closing costs, and
Oh,
when you purchase, you have closing costs. And so, what we always talk about is with those closing costs, how long would it take you to recapture those based on the reduction of payment that you might be expecting to have if you refinance? So, if you refinance and your payments are going to go down $50 a month, and you pay $10,000 in closing costs, then we divide that by um, 50 and figure out how many months that is. And that's kind of, what you look at. What is it, a year? Is it 2 years? Is it 5 years? However, when the rates went down like they did significantly a few years ago, it made sense for a lot of people, especially if they planned on keeping their house for a long time, because if you refinance and you're saving $200, that's $2,400 a year. You're going to recapture that in 3 or 4 years, and you're going to be saving on a monthly basis on your budget. The other reason why you would want to refinance is if you want to take the cash out of your house and pay off debt, or make a purchase. So when I refinanced my house, one of the reasons was I was going through a divorce. So again, if you have to go through a divorce and you need to refinance and buy out your ex, I can help you with that. But what I did was, he got half the equity. I got equity out so that I could fix it up because I wanted to sell it. I paid off my debt. I paid off my car. And it consolidated my payment into one payment versus having like three different little payments here and there. And then at that point in time, because this was back in 2006, it was tax deductible. That tax deductibility has changed over the years. If you itemize, you still can deduct your taxes and your insurances, and sometimes some other pieces. But if you're doing the standard deduction, then that doesn't apply to you. But so there's different pros and cons to that refinancing. But the other piece is that when I refinanced, there is something called mortgage insurance that you put on a mortgage. So if you don't have 20% to put down on your mortgage, or you don't get, what I did was an 80/20. So 20% was financed at a different rate, acted as a down payment for me. 80% was financed at the regular mortgage rate. But if you have mortgage insurance, that can be anywhere from $150 to $200 a month extra on your mortgage payment. And if you suddenly have 20% equity, which I had in the first year, I refinanced to get rid of that payment altogether. My rate went down just a little bit, but what was happening was I was losing that 150 extra dollars a month. And for me, that was important at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had all that equity still in the house. So, pros and cons to refinancing, and it all depends on what your standards are, what you need the money for, how long you plan to stay in the house, and a couple other factors.
Mm-hmm. So if somebody's going to be renting out their property, say they buy something new for whatever reason, and they're renting out that prior property that they had, um, in a situation like that, would it make sense or not make sense to refinance?
Again, it depends basis. If you were in one of those homes and you had refinanced and gotten the 2.75% or 3% interest, and you have some equity in your house, there's two ways to look at it. You can take the equity out as a home equity loan and use that as down payment on the new home. And that will save you money on the mortgage of the new home. So when you're looking at the two different payments together, if you happen to, so suppose you buy in today's world, this is what sort of the guidance we give people now. If you want to buy in today's world and it's 7 or 8%, and you want to, in 2 or 3 years, rent out this property and go buy another property, two things would happen. Ideally, the rates will go down and you'll have equity. So at that point, you will want to refinance and take that equity out to use as a down payment on the newer property. So that's a situation where refinance would make sense if you're going to get a lower rate and that equity is going to be used for something such as an investment into another property.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. Is there anything else that you think people need to know at this point about whether, buying or selling or refinancing, something that people, maybe don't always think about?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that people aren't thinking about, and I've done some reels on this. The first one is a lot of people are I don't want to sell my house, or I can't sell my house right now, or I'm afraid I can't sell my house, and I still want to buy a new home. Um, there are programs called bridge loans, and what they do is if you've got a lot of equity in your current home, you can access that equity to purchase the new home. You'll own both homes, but you don't have to do what they call a contingent purchase or contingent sale. What that means is you make an offer on a home and you say it's contingent on the fact that I had to sell my home at the same time that I'm buying this home. A bridge loan allows you to make that offer on the new home, purchase that new home, move into it, and then try to sell your other home while you're doing that. It can be a month, it can be 2 months. There are some bridge loans that can go up to a year for people. So that's one thing. The other one is that some homes. So in my area, there's a home that's been sitting for several months. Ideally, we're looking at it as though it's probably a little bit overpriced. And so there's a couple of options that people like. I don't want to reduce the price of my home in order to get somebody to buy it. So we have something called a buy down. And what that is the seller says to the potential buyer, hey, I'll buy down your interest rate for the first 2 years. So suppose the rate is about 7.5% right now. The seller buys down that rate to 5.5%. So for the first year, the buyer's interest rate is 5.5%. The next year, the buyer's interest rate will be 6.5%. And then ideally, again, if the interest rates are going down, the buyer will then refinance and get one of these lower rates. But in the meantime, they've had the opportunity to not have that higher mortgage payment for the first 2 years. It makes the seller happy, makes the buyer happy. The seller's able to not have to reduce their sales price. The buyer gets the home at the lower interest rate. I think I lost you again. Did I lose you again? Darn it.
Are you there?
I'm here. Did I lose you again?
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Hold on, because I just took my camera off.
Oh,
I thought I
okay.
lost you.
All right. So yeah. So right when you finished talking about the buy down, I think is when you froze up. So it was a good point. Was there anything else that you thought people need to know? We talked about the buy downs. Anything else?
If there are a lot of programs out there, and where I'm working now, we have access to a lot of different programs. But if you have a question, if you're looking into real estate investment and maybe purchasing a rental property, there are ways to purchase a rental property without ever having to prove your income. You just have to show that the rental property is going to make income. There are programs out there for people who are self-employed and maybe don't show a lot of income on their taxes, but you can see the cash flow in their bank statements. There are programs out there for foreign nationals, people who have ITINs. So, don't disqualify yourself from buying a home just because of the rates, where you are in life, what's going on. Come talk to me. We'll look at this. We'll talk about what the options are, and then we'll decide if this is the right time to buy a home, and we can get a program that will work for you. That's gracious.
All right. Well, that won't be able to get a home for whatever reason. So it's a good thing you said that the person should at least talk to a loan officer about what their situation is, and there might be a lot more options available to them that they didn't even know about. Right.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are like, "Oh, I'm not ready. I can't afford. I don't." You don't know that until we run the numbers, and once we run the numbers, then we can determine that. I've been working with a girl for over a year right now because she wasn't ready when we started, and we've worked on getting some savings going, and now she's ready to purchase. So,
Mm-hmm.
that's a possibility. You're not ready now. We'll work on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true because there are things that could be, quick and easy fixes, maybe over a couple months, or maybe some things that, can take longer, or maybe it's something, very quick. Like your advice might be, pay down this loan, or whatever it is. You are the one who has the expertise on that, so you could tell them, how likely it is, in X amount of time they can be able to get to their goal if they do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, we have access to that information, and sometimes it's not pay off a credit card, it's pay it down to a certain level.
Hmm. Hmm.
Sometimes it's don't pay off the credit card or don't pay off the car payment. What people don't know is if you have less than 10 months left on a car payment, we discount that from your debt to income ratio because so it doesn't even count towards your debt to income ratio. Now it counts for affordability purposes, but it doesn't we don't apply that towards the approval status.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I had no idea. Because if that didn't go towards the approval status, then you don't have to rush to, possibly pay off that 2,000 or $3,000 just to have that
Right.
loan gone, and that's more money in your pocket every month. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to discuss before we said goodbye today?
Nope, just the same, if you're wondering what's going on or what you need to do or if you're eligible, come talk to me. We'll run some numbers and we'll see what's going on. We
Hmm.
don't know until we sit down and chat.
Hmm. Oh, and one thing I was gonna say or ask, people might be afraid that they're gonna, waste someone's time. Like if they think I really, there's no way it's gonna work. I don't have enough money, X, Y, and Z. Should they still reach out to you anyway? And because they never know what you're gonna be able to help them with.
Yeah, absolutely, because you don't know, and there are programs. It's like you said, you didn't know about the Prince William County First Home Home Buyers Program. You don't
Hmm.
know what programs are out there until we sit down and talk about it, and
Right.
we might find something out there that will work for you that even I didn't know existed. So, once we start doing the research, then we can find a solution for you.